Welcome to GeeK KetchUp. I'm Kyle Eckert alongside Chris Heck. We're two lifelong friends with a passion for all things geek. Whether it's gaming, movies, television, wrestling, comics, whatever. If it's nerdy, there's a good chance we're into it. You are listening to our Season 1 bonus chapter, a DLC expansion, if you will. Today, we're catching up with Andrew Kimball and Dylan Wren from the podcast Level Playing Field to talk about their favorite characters from the world of geekery. We'll also chat about their video gaming podcast, what they've been up to recently, and maybe even play a game or two. Before we get started here, Chris and I wanted to take a moment to say thank you for listening to this chapter, and thank you to everyone that's been listening. We're beyond thrilled that you've enjoyed the show, and if you'd like to help us spread that joy, the best thing you can do is share us on social media and with your friends. Catch us on Twitter and Instagram at GeeK KetchUp on Facebook and YouTube, GeeK KetchUp Podcast, and of course, our website, geekketchuppodcast.com. Thank you so much, and remember to stay south. We're excited to be joined here today with fellow podcasters Andrew Kimball and Dylan Wren from the Level Playing Field podcast. There's plenty to discuss, but before we get there, how you guys doing today?
Doing good. How are you guys doing?
Doing well? Doing well?
Can't complain, yeah.
Same
I'm
here.
Dylan Wren, just in case anyone was wondering.
It's going to throw everyone off. Everyone.
I'd say we're going to do a little flip of the voices just so everyone's comfortable. Yeah. Just so everyone's familiar with the voices you're about to hear. You know, Chris and Kyle, you know us. So Andrew, say hi.
Hi, how's it going?
And Dylan.
Hey, everyone.
There you go. Now you know our voices and all is well. Before we jump into our topic on the day, which is really like, what are you geeking out on lately? And then we're going to talk some geekery characters that have inspired you over the years. You guys have your podcast, Level Playing Field, and we want to hear about it.
Tell them about it, Dylan. I'll fill in any blanks you leave.
Yeah, so essentially, it's a group of 5 of us. We've all been friends for years and years, going back to middle school, high school, even earlier for a lot of us. And through the years, we've kind of been into a lot of geeky stuff, a lot of video games, that sort of stuff. And so we've kind of, one day we were kind of like, well, what if we talked about it and recorded it? And
Yeah.
at least I was not on from the beginning. So that's what they were kind of talking about. And then they were like, hey, like you like the same stuff. We know you. Why don't you want to be on some episodes? And then I just kind of never left. Still there. So
Yeah. Well, it didn't really, part of that was because you were off at school at the time and we hadn't figured out quite what we were doing. So like Squadcast and all that, where you could do it remotely, we were all sitting around a table. But yeah, I got really into like listening to podcasts about gaming specifically. You know, a lot of the IGN kind of funny podcasts like that. And I thought I could probably do this. And so, yeah, just a bunch of us who are just all in a group. We all grew up together. We're always talking about video games and stuff anyways.
mhm.
We just decided, hey, let's go for it, and made it up as we went pretty much. I'm really proud of if you start at the beginning of our show and then listen to kind of the later stuff to see like how far we have come.
Mhm.
Not that I think our original stuff was necessarily bad, but you know, we had a lot to learn.
Sure.
Like Dylan said, there's 5 of us. There's not always that many on the episode at one time. We kind of rotate in and out, but there is kind of a core, like 3 to 4 of us that are almost always on.
Mhm.
We do like spoiler cast, kind of deep dive episodes into games, or we'll pick like a topic and kind of explore that topic. And then we have a few other like smaller segments that we throw in there too, like, you know, kind of what we've been playing lately, or we have a thing called the Game Pass report where we just pick a like not necessarily unknown, but like maybe under the radar kind of game that's either
Right.
easy to get or free or was on Game Pass, and then we talk about it. And we try to end with a fun little game.
Yeah.
And that's our show.
Yeah, good time. So you said you started listening to podcasts. Was there one in particular that kind of inspired you that you're like, this is the model that I wanted to take?
Nope. That's why if you listen to the older stuff to now, like a lot of the segments and stuff we came up, Dylan was responsible for a lot of that, kind of getting us organized. I really enjoyed IGN's Game Scoop
Mhm.
and a lot of the kind of funny, like their games cast, but I feel like it's really easy for them to have a format and to have stuff to talk about because they're always getting like early access to games and they're
Right.
going to preview events and they're like up on all the news. Whereas for us, it's like we can't chase that same model because there's no way you're gonna stand out against like IGN or places like that. So
Yeah.
that was when we decided to maybe go for like more broad topics, but still in gaming
Yeah.
Talk about what you want to talk about.
or just our opinions. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of discussion about that, that people have because games are a form of art. Everybody has different opinions. Some connect hardcore with certain people, and other people are like, "That game was trash. What are you talking about?"
Hmm.
But I was really curious, just how you all had come together as a group because one thing I noticed listening to you is that you definitely have that chemistry and everybody's kind of got that different personality, different opinions, which is nice. You don't see a lot of podcasts that have such a big squad coming to it.
Hmm.
And I always felt like you all probably had a history together based on that chemistry, but I didn't know you all quite went back. Kind of like what me and Kyle do, going back, early childhood friends, it sounds like.
Yeah, we're working on like a trailer because that was something, like I said, we learned along the way. We all know each other and it makes sense, what we're talking about. But then hearing from people on the outside, we get that a lot. Like, I'd like to know a little bit more of your history or how you guys met or that kind of thing. So we got a trailer going out probably pretty soon that kind of addresses some of that. That'll be in the feed. And we have actually we've touched on it on more recent episodes too. But yeah, we all go back to, I think Caleb and I met when we were like 10.
Oh, wow.
So some of us go way back.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, and Aubrey's your sister. So
Well, yeah,
you've known
and
her since.
Aubrey's my sister and my brother's on there occasionally too. So some of us are family.
Yeah, because I think I met you probably around the same time. We were all super into Lord of the Rings still. So
Nice.
those movies were coming out around that time. So I would have only been about 10 or 11. Yeah.
So one question, and this might be a provocative one, but since you all are, the video game experts and the video game podcast, I want to know who is the best gamer at LPF. Like when you're all getting together and hanging out, who wins?
Well, it depends on the
Depends.
game.
Yeah. There's actually a current bet going on
Ooh.
for who's the best at Rock Band and Guitar Hero.
All right.
So we will settle that soon.
Nice.
Currently, Andrew and I are kind of trying to figure out who's better there. We're gonna play Learn to Fly on Expert because as kids, that's the one we always failed.
By Tom Petty or by the Foo Fighters?
Foo Fighters.
Okay, you gotta
Yeah.
gotta make sure you know
Yeah.
which one.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I had forgotten about that bet. But like if we're playing anything Nintendo, pretty much Super Smash Brothers, stuff like that, probably Caleb's gonna win.
Mhm.
That's his strength.
Yeah.
First person shooters, like and depending on which one, like Halo, that could be Dylan probably. Maybe in the Call of Duty realm, I might hold my own a little better. But
Mhm.
honestly, when it comes to competitive games, I probably think I fall pretty much close to last. That's like not usually what I'm playing. Sometimes like Guitar Hero, I'm confident in, and Rock Band because I was super into those growing up. But a lot of the others, I never really got that competitive edge too much.
Yeah.
Third and fourth were kind of where I was sitting.
I'd probably throw Joe out there as probably like the best regular on the show. Like overall, he's probably the most skilled at the widest range of games.
If y'all had a decathlon,
Yeah.
he would win
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. He has like the ability to be really good at a lot of games that we don't even play.
Yeah,
Mm.
He's really good at like strategy games and really good at, a lot of stuff like that.
a jack of all trades gamer.
Yeah.
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 I'd probably say he's probably the best among us,
Okay.
unless it's like Nintendo fighting games. And then it's like Andrew or Caleb.
All right.
So with that, like, Andrew, you said you don't play very many competitive games, or maybe you didn't over the years. Do you guys have a favorite genre that you like to play or at least talk about?
Oh yeah. For me, it's open world RPGs like Skyrim, The Witcher, games like that. I do like some JRPGs too, and I also am big into like the kind of story driven single player games, Tomb Raider, Uncharted.
Mhm.
I like those too. But my bread and butter is the RPGs.
go at your own pace.
Yeah, I love checking the boxes, going down the list, clearing out all those side quests and talking to everybody and exploring the world.
You verse the game.
Yeah, using it as an escape almost.
Mhm.
I mean, because I say that from my own experience. Like that's why I play a lot of games that I do. It's just the world is insane, and sometimes you just want to go to another place.
Yeah, for sure. You wanna use a sword.
Yeah. Well, telling me I can't walk around Walmart with a sword on my back?
I'm not telling you that.
You know,
Fair enough. Dylan, how about you?
pretty much very similar to Andrew. I'm a big fan of big RPGs, and they don't necessarily have to be open world. I'm a big fan of like any RPG that's going to let me do a lot of like exploration and world building and that kind of thing. So those tend to be big open world RPGs, but they can also be smaller games like Monster Hunter, or I guess the Prince of Persia series is not exactly an RPG series because you're not like leveling up or anything, but still kind of like at the base level, like big action adventure exploration sort of game.
Yeah.
Nice, awesome. Well, where can everyone find you guys?
We are on all of the major podcasting platforms with the exception of Pandora. I'm working on that, but they take forever.
Us too. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
I submitted us in January, so that tells you how long we've been waiting to hear back
I
from
was
them.
February, so
Wow.
you were ahead of me in the queue.
Wow.
And then we're also branching out and slowly pushing our way onto YouTube. We have some Final Fantasy VII Remake playthrough videos going up. Dylan's got some cool stuff going up that he's been working on. Any episodes that we record remotely, we've been trying to put up there. We're still trying to figure out how to record video for the ones we do locally, but we've been trying to put up some podcast episodes on there. So if you want to see what we look like, you can go check it out there.
They have beautiful faces.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Dylan's beard is glorious. I'm jealous.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's been able to grow it since he was 12. So.
Pretty much since I met you.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got a better beard than I do, that's for sure.
I'm saying mine just the baby face. I couldn't do it if I wanted to.
Yeah,
Just
it's a
not blessed
struggle.
with those genes. It's
Kyle
terrible.
hasn't shaved a day in his life.
Maybe when I was 12 for practice.
Right.
And then it was just like, nah, this isn't gonna work, man. I'm just not gonna grow facial hair.
Yeah.
But moving past the facial hair, let's say, like, what have you guys been geeking out on lately? I know we went with Andrew first time, so we'll jump over to Dylan
Sure.
to kick this one off for us. So, like, what have you been geeking out on? It can be anything from video games, comics, movies, television. What has been your jam lately, man?
Yeah. So there's been a bunch of stuff that I've been kind of dabbling in. We recently did a Dark Souls and Soulsborne episode for the podcast. And at the time we did it, I had not been really playing those games. Like I had played them all previously, but when we did that episode, I kind of was like, oh man, those are such good games. I want to go back and play them.
Yeah.
So I've been working my way through. I beat Dark Souls 1.
How long did it take you to get back into the groove?
Mhm.
And every time I try to go back to them, it's like, do I even want to go down that path?
Right. Dark Souls 1 didn't take me a ton of time just because I've played that one through to a certain point so many times. Like I get to the demon ruins and kind of where the game gets like extra BS and then kind of have stopped in the past. This time I actually pushed through all of the BS to, finish the game. But like that point from the start to the demon ruins, like I've played through so much that jumping back into that was kind of like going back and just, picked it up pretty quick. Didn't really have too many issues.
That's good.
Dark Souls 2, I played a lot of the original like Dark Souls 2. I have not played through Scholar of the First Sins. And so I am playing through Scholar of the First Sins now. And so they've changed a lot about the like
Right.
enemy placement and everything, which is really cool.
It was like a remix, right?
Yeah, like I'm kind of almost getting to go back and not quite experience the game for the first time again because like the bosses and stuff are still the same for the most part.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the DLC and I didn't have the Scholar of the First Sins content when I played a ton of it last. So like the areas are familiar, but like all the enemy placements and stuff is a little bit different. So that one's taking me a little bit longer to kind of get back into.
Gotcha.
And then Sekiro is tough too. So
Yes, it is. Oh my god.
there are times where I think I'm finally getting it, and then there are times where I'm like, I'm an idiot. I can't play video games. I don't know.
So, like you said, you played them the first go around for the podcast, and then the second go around kind of just for fun.
Mhm.
Like, I know that in the history of doing this podcast, when I've had to do that, there's a distinct difference in how I play it and how I enjoy it. Like, do you find you enjoy it more like when you're focusing in and taking notes? Maybe you're like, oh, I got to talk about this later, versus when you're just like having fun, kicking back.
At least not with those games.
Yeah,
Like when we've done our reviews and stuff for like deeper dives, like this was kind of just like a broad sort of overarching Soulsborne thing. So I wasn't taking a ton of notes. I was more so just kind of like talking off the cuff for those. But yeah, definitely when I have done like we played the Division 2 and did a review on that. We played Jedi Fallen Order and did a review on that and stuff. And so I still think I had a lot of fun with those games,
yeah,
but more so I would describe it as like, especially with Jedi Fallen Order, where it's like some of the parts of that like it was an amazing game, but then there were certain parts of it that were just kind of bad.
Yeah.
Like knowing that I was going to have to talk about those bad things for a game I loved so much was kind of tough. Like every time I had to do like a little sliding puzzle or something like that, I was like, I'm gonna have to talk about this on the podcast 'cause this is terrible.
Yeah.
There were some rough moments in that game.
Yeah, but overall, I haven't noticed like a huge distinction between like when I'm playing just for fun, and I try to just play games that I want to play too. So maybe that's a little bit different. So far for the podcast, I haven't had to play a game that I didn't want to yet.
gotcha.
We're trying to do a few more reviews and deep dives and spoiler casts in the coming months here. So I am going to start playing some games that, you know, have been on my list, but I just have never sat down and started. And so some of those I may push through and not enjoy and be taking notes.
Yeah,
We'll see about that.
but definitely not for the Souls games.
No, not for the Souls games. I
The
love those.
frustration's all the same.
Yeah. Whether you're beating your head against the wall because you feel like you have to, or because you just are, you enjoy that for some reason, you know?
It's gonna happen one way or the other when you're playing them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, Andrew, any games or anything you've been geeking out on?
Yeah, so also been playing Souls games, specifically Sekiro. We talked about that on part 1 of this crossover, but I'm still going at it. It's still not easy no matter what Chris says.
I was gonna say we should say for context on part 1, go listen to it. Chris thinks that game is easy.
Yeah, he said it was too easy, so he quit playing.
That was my feeling, you know? Maybe I need to just go back to it and give it another pass and see if I was full of shit or not.
I think you should try it, and
Push through.
if it's still easy, I want you to tutor me.
I'll just keep one hit killing people off the roofs. That's all I'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I found a spot where there's people on the roofs, so
Oh no. Okay. I just didn't get far enough.
but yeah, so I don't necessarily want to go over all that again, but also in gaming, started The Last of Us Part 2.
Yes.
Nice.
And, you know, not spoiling anything. I'm not really far enough to spoil anything. I mean, I'm probably about four or so hours in at this point, and it's quite the experience so far.
Yeah,
The events of the story have definitely pulled me in, and the game, like the presentation of that game and how just how it's directed, how everything's set up, like everything is intentional in that game. And the way that it seamlessly transitions from cutscene to gameplay, and you don't even realize, oh, I have control of the character now. All of that stuff just on a surface gameplay level is impressive. Not far enough in to really give big opinions or thoughts on the story and where all that's going. It's definitely just as creepy as the first one. I am playing on a harder difficulty than I played the first one. I am enjoying the gameplay more this time around. I think they've refined it, and I think playing as Ellie and having a knife that doesn't break and your little dodge ability helps me feel like a lot more confident when I'm going into tense situations, whereas in the first game I felt a little bit less equipped, maybe,
sure.
at least for how I play games. So I've been enjoying that. We're planning on doing like a spoiler cast on that one for sure as soon as a few of us have played it. So pretty much what I've been playing exclusively. I'll dabble in a few things here and there, like maybe indies or things for like our Game Pass report, like I mentioned, but nothing else has really pulled me in recently.
Yeah, I definitely think we'll probably do a deep dive into Last of Us 2. It's too big not to.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like you might be about as far as Kyle got.
Yeah.
So for context, this episode's going to come out a little later. The Last of Us just came out a couple days ago at time of recording, so maybe we'll just throw that in there in case anybody's
Yeah.
listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this is going to come out in July. But
Right.
I got about 2 hours in, so I like started it just enough to get through the initial opening of a game, just with how much else was going on.
Okay.
And so I'm like itching
Yeah.
to actually like sit down and put like a real play session on it.
Mhm.
But I totally agree with you. I was like, the one thing I'll say is that I was surprised that it just picked up so fast, like kind of throws you right back into the combat and things. I was like, man, I haven't played the original in so long. Like, do I know how to take down a clicker? You know?
And that was something that surprised me too, because I played the original late. I'm new to the PlayStation ecosystem, but it's still been a hot minute since I played the first one.
Yeah.
And like I said, I played it on easy, so I'm sure there were some sections that I probably didn't really need that like skill level for, but I was surprised at how like quickly I remembered how this game played. Like
Yeah.
how to swap between your stuff, how like what L1 is sprint, which is unusual for games, and like different like lots of controls like that. Like, but it all kind of came back pretty quick. Like I thought I was gonna be kind of bumbling around for a little while, but it actually kind of fell right back into the groove pretty quick.
I don't know about you all, and this is probably a spoiler, but like I was really mad that I didn't have a bow and arrow from like the moment we started the game.
Oh yeah.
Because I lived on the bow and arrow in the first one,
Yeah.
tagging people and grabbing the arrows and going at it again.
Mhm.
I was like, man, I thought I finished the game with a sweet bow and arrow. Where is it? It's like-
I've seen people play that game that are awesome with the bow and arrow. That was one mechanic that I never fully got, with like the way you pull it back and the reticle. Like,
Mhm.
but I plan on trying to get a little bit more efficient with it in this game.
Yeah, hopefully it's still in there. Maybe we'll get like a Daryl crossbow or something different.
That'd be nice.
That would be sweet. I'm pretty sure it was in the trailer.
Yeah, I think they've
Oh, was
shown
it?
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was gonna say, little behind the scenes. I see a list here, television wise.
Mhm.
Anything you both have been watching that may have recently come to Netflix that I'm desperate to talk about with just about anyone?
I don't know. Are you talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender?
I may be talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender.
All right, I'm gonna take a break and I'll come back when y'all are done.
Poor Chris has never seen the show.
Oh man,
Not yet.
it's just 3 seasons.
I know.
So similar to you, my wife had never seen the show, and it's kind of one of those things where like it's talked about so much, and that she was just kind of over it, before ever actually seeing it.
Yeah.
We'd always be like, "You need to watch it. It's so good." She'd be like, "Yeah, I know. I don't. I don't really
The Game
want
of
to."
Thrones effect.
Yeah. So we sat down. I was like, "We're doing this," and so we wrapped it up. Probably a couple weeks ago, and that show holds up so well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The only things I think it really suffers from is just that it was constrained to like those 22-minute episodes. And so sometimes like maybe some big moments go by a little faster than you think they should. Like,
Sure.
but overall, I mean, especially for being a kids show on Nickelodeon, like just top notch.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree on that one. We have a buddy that just recently we've been trying to convince him to watch it for years, but he's never had a way to do it. Finally came to Netflix. And then right when he got to the end of season 3, like book 3, he was like, "Is this it? Is this all I'm getting?" Like, and I had the argument like, "No, it's perfect the way it is. Like it's 3 elements, 3 books. Boom, like it doesn't outstay its welcome like
Yeah.
so many other shows do." And he was like, "No, I'm just jonesing for more content."
Yeah, no, and it sets out with a goal and it accomplishes it, and it ties up all the storylines, and so yeah, it's perfectly self-contained, and they didn't milk it for success, which is kind of what happened with Korra, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's like, it started as a mini series, but then it was successful. So like, well, go for another season. And like that feels so disjointed, and like they're making it up as they went. Whereas the original Last Airbender was like, you could tell they had an end in mind when they started.
Mhm.
Yeah. Everything was planned.
Yeah, exactly.
Dylan the same? Been watching Avatar or switching up and doing something different?
Been watching a lot of Avatar. I watched the series as well when it came out on Netflix. I had watched it as a kid. I don't know that I ever actually made it through the end or saw every episode, because as I was watching like the show on Netflix, there were some episodes where I was just like, I don't remember this at all. And like, I guess as a kid, it didn't click with, if you missed an episode, you didn't really notice sometimes. But yeah, I agree with everything you guys were saying. It holds up. It's a phenomenal show. And like, it's, if you haven't ever watched it, now that it's on Netflix, it's easily accessible, and 22-minute episodes, like it's easy to kind of slip one or two in, or like 12 at night.
So I've got a question for the three of you then,
All right.
because I'm the odd one in the room. But what is the best, or what is your favorite part of the show? Round robin. Andrew,
Okay.
put you on the spot.
I mean, it's a little bit of foreshadowing, but I definitely like Zuko's story arc, and how he develops as a character, and his relationship with his uncle. But it's pretty much that for all the characters. Like the way they show their growth and the character they were at the beginning versus who they were at the end is significant for everyone in that show.
It's a little surprising for an animated show.
Yeah.
Not that it doesn't happen, but
That's why it was so special, especially for its time, because it was so unique.
Yeah.
It was still a kids show, but it wasn't like pandering,
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right, Kyle.
Well, it's kind of along those same lines, like that. It's a show that I actually found late in life. I didn't watch it as a kid. Of course, when it came out, I'm going to age myself a little bit. I was in high school. Actually, I was in college when it came out because it debuted in 2005. So that was my freshman year of college. So I actually didn't find it until later in my college years. I had a roommate that made me watch it, and he was just kind of like, "You're gonna like it," and instantly got hooked. But it was that there was just so much social commentary, I guess, the best way to put it, and like really reflecting on the world, and not just like the world of Airbender and like what they're in, but also our world. It's a kid show, but it never felt like a kid show. Like this, like you said, the characters are fully developed, the stories are fully developed. They deal with like real issues, and then mix in a kid's joke every now and then, or like a beach episode, like most animes are prone to do.
Yeah, but even that beach episode like ends pretty heavy,
Yeah, it really does. And I actually said that the other day to a buddy, like the beach episode has a top 3 bending moment for me. Sparky Sparky Boom Man like goes to hit Aang, and he just kind of deflects it with a gigantic like air blast, and I'm like, that's some of those powerful air bending we get to see in the first series. Like you don't really get that until Tenzin and Korra. You get to see like the full extent of air bending, but
Right.
not really answering the question. It's just like the completeness, the wholeness of the show. Like having come across it really late and being like, wow, like for an animated show, this just has it all, and it has continued to resonate with me. And just kind of one people, 4 nations, one people, we're all human type deal. Always stuck with me.
All right, well, this is the best commercial I've gotten of this show yet in the years, because I just always hear like it's so freaking amazing, but nobody like really breaks it down. Maybe you can't understand till you watch it. But what about you, Dylan?
Pretty much just echoing what Kyle and Andrew have said. I mean, all of the characters are, great characters, developed characters. I came away basically liking all, like even the ones that were like the bad characters, like you still had a little bit of like empathy for, and like they did a good job, I felt like, of really helping you realize, like, I guess like a kid's show, it was very like not gray, but like it showed you both sides, like in most kids shows, it's like these are the good guys, these are the bad guys.
Yeah.
And it did a lot better job of like humanizing everyone and showing that, even the good characters struggle, and even the bad characters have a human side.
Deep shit here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, like just the concept I thought was really cool.
Yeah, bending the elements.
Yeah, like a magic, but not exactly magic sort of thing, I think I was like middle school or so when it came out.
Yeah, probably.
Like it was just such a cool concept, like obviously Harry Potter was a big deal too, but like seeing this was like a whole different take on, the whole magic side of things.
There's one other thing that I think is important about the show is you can see it with their other shows. You see it in Korra, and then they have their show, The Dragon Prince, on Netflix. I don't know if you guys have checked that out or not, but they're inclusive. Again, not like in a pandering way. Like one of the main characters in Avatar is blind, and then they have people from all different kind of races and backgrounds and everything else. And in the Dragon Prince, their most recent show, they have like one of the main characters is actually deaf, and like she signs and stuff in that show. And so like it's a character in the show. They're not like trying to shove anything down your throat or whatever. It's inclusive just because that's how it is. Yeah. And
yeah,
you can tell that was important to the creators, and then they approached it and succeeded in like a real kind of natural way without making it feel heavy-handed or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and they did it respectfully too. Like, cause
Exactly.
thinking about Avatar, like there was a kid, he wasn't like a huge main character, but he was in a wheelchair.
Mhm.
And it wasn't like he was just always, the butt of the joke, or, like it wasn't like they were like, oh man, like everything about him wasn't the wheelchair. Like he was a normal person who just happened to be in a wheelchair.
Kind of the opposite of like Jimmy from South Park.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Or like token. No, honestly, thinking about Toph,
Hmm.
she never felt like a token character. Like, oh, we have to have the
Right.
token disability character. Like, it's just part of her personality, and it ends up being a huge part of her personality and bending ability as well. And
That's
Mhm.
super cool.
across the board, all the same there.
Y'all got my interest a little more piqued, like it was always on the radar, and we've
Yeah.
talked about it. Like I do have a White Lotus tattoo, even though I've never seen the show.
You should watch it then. I will say that, season 1, starts out a little slow, the animation might seem a little dated, you're like, "Oh, I heard this bending thing was such a cool concept that they're just, like, splashing," but once you get to, like, the back half of season 1, it's pretty much, like, all downhill from there. If you're not hooked by
Yeah.
then it's just not for you.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I've always said it's the Blue Spirit episode.
Yeah.
Like, of season 1, like, basically the first 8 episodes are a little dry, they build the world, they build the characters a little bit, but
Hmm.
gotta get through it, and then once you hit the Blue Spirit episode, the show just skyrockets and never looks back.
But a lot of those episodes from season 1, like, some shows it's like, "Oh, just skip season 1 or just skip this," but a lot of those episodes, like, they tie back into later episodes and, like, the characters you meet there, they come back and stuff like that, so it's definitely worth it for that to just watch it all, and like Dylan said, 22 minutes a pop, it's not a huge commitment.
Yeah.
And you can skip the intro and you can skip credits.
Yeah, on Netflix, that's crazy because we used to watch it on, like, DVD
Yeah, yeah.
back in the day, and so you had that song was just the ending credits song was just, like, built into your mind,
Yeah.
but now it's like Netflix just automatically jump well, you're out of one episode, you're back into the next one.
Yeah, you don't give that moment where you get to, like, sit in front of your TV and you're like, "Tum, tum, tum,
I know exactly what moment you're talking about.
yeah. Well, that's pretty awesome. We're geeking out on a lot of the same things here, games and television shows. I think we may have finally hooked Chris on Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I'll kick it up the list. I don't have too much on the docket for new shows at the moment, with like nothing new really coming out, so
Right.
Yeah,
it does give me some more opportunity to backtrack and get through some backlog.
yeah. Maybe by the time you're on your first watch, I'll be back on my third watch because I'm not ashamed to say I'm actually already on. I just hit season 3 and I've already watched it all the way through once. I was like jonesing for it. I'm like, I gotta,
Yeah.
like, I crushed it. And I think it's like the first time's for cleaning, the second time's for that sweet picking feeling.
Yeah,
Anybody gets that.
I get you.
Yeah.
But we'll move on to the core of our episode here, talking about our favorite characters from the world of geekery. We've all come loaded with a few, but we're going to mainly focus on what Andrew and Dylan have brought to the table here. So I believe we are back on Andrew first. Give us one of your characters from the world of geekery that really has resonated with you, inspired you, or that you just flat out love because you're allowed to love them.
Well, let's take a momentary break from Avatar, and we'll circle back around to it, and I'll throw Spider-Man out there first.
Oh, nice. Oh, Peter Parker.
Classic.
Exactly, and part of the reason is because of Peter Parker. Like, as a kid, Spider-Man is just a super cool superhero, he's a little bit more relatable because he's closer to your age, he's got awesome powers, he's flying through the city on his webs, he can crawl, he's got super strength, he's making dumb jokes, he doesn't seem like he's afraid of anything, but then he's going to school, he's juggling normal life in a way that is relatable when you're younger, and it is probably even more relatable as you get older. You start to kind of see that Spider-Man's greatest like conflict, his biggest struggle is with himself. Is like on the inside, he's trying to balance that Peter Parker to Spider-Man, and he can never find that balance. He's constantly jeopardizing relationships. He never can quite get the girl. He's always late for class, and it's all because he's doing greater things, in the big scheme of things, but nobody really sees that. He never really gets
Right.
the due for that. And so he just kind of encompasses everything because it's like on a surface level, he's just super fun. in a video game sense, like especially the most recent PS4 Marvel Spider-Man, like just the mobility in that game, the way he moves, his combat feel like Spider-Man. That's the cliche that, was going around when it first came out, but like
It's
That's
true.
true.
you can't help but smile when you play that game, and that's actually the game that made me go out and buy a PS4 was because I loved Spider-Man 2, like, back in the GameCube, PS2 days, and
Yeah.
that game, it was like you actually felt like you were in a big open world New York and you were Spider-Man, and, like, you look at it now and it's kinda ridiculous, but it was the nostalgia for that game and seeing all the hype into this one that I was like, I gotta pull the trigger, I gotta do it. And as soon as I fired it up and started playing it, I was just like giddy, My wife was sitting there like she could tell I didn't regret that purchase one bit. But then you dig a little deeper and there is that super relatable conflict that he is always dealing with. And we don't ever have to struggle with anything that big, but there's always balancing work and family and, relationship, like that balancing act that everybody goes through. It's exaggerated in the character of Spider-Man. And that's just something that I think we can all relate to.
I think it's a good point because Spider-Man's not everybody's favorite character, but it's almost like everybody goes through a period where they're into Spider-Man.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And especially like you said, with kids, for whatever reason, they just gravitate to the Spider-Man character. And it could be the suit and things, but I think you make some good points about the fact that he's closer in the age group and he looks like a lot of the kids. He's dealing with the same exact things, and so I think it's a good way to look at it.
Mhm.
So do you have any preferences? Because of course there's been a million different versions of Spider-Man, and there's been at least a million different actors that have played Spider-Man in the last 20 years. So, do you have any particular versions or actors or anything like that, portrayals of Spider-Man that you prefer over some of the others?
Yeah, I think that Insomniac knocked it out of the park in that game. I think, and that's a little bit older. Peter Parker and Spider Man. That's a little bit closer to my age now, kind of Spider Man. I think Tom Holland is the best movie Spider-Man we've ever had because I think that Tobey Maguire, a little bit older again, but like he was a decent Peter Parker.
Yeah,
He was never super believable as Spider-Man to me. And then Andrew Garfield was a great Spider-Man. He had all the quips. He was like built for it, but his Peter Parker was like cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Cool Guy Peter Parker that I mean, I didn't hate those movies, but no movie adaptation had really found the right blend yet, and I think Tom Holland nails it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. Andrew Garfield always came off like Marty McFly to me,
Right. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
where he is very like wholesome and every day, but then like he's just cool,
Yeah.
like, he's just naturally cool.
He's like walking down the halls, and everybody's
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It was the hair.
right.
Andrew Garfield just has amazing hair.
That's
I think
true.
that's what sold it. It was like, man, there's no way you're getting it in that mask. And two, like it just looks so good all the time. Like no, he's got to look disheveled. He's got to be crazy, right?
Right, he's always running late.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holland though is solid. I was a little worried when the Marvel Sony cinema battle with the contracts and everything was happening because
Oh,
it was
yeah.
like you finally got a guy that you could literally let play Peter Parker for like the next 15 years, 20 years maybe.
Age him a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, just the business side. We're gonna completely shit on it all.
Yeah.
And thankfully, it kind of went the other way, at least for now. But I'm with you there.
There's too much money on the table for them to not
Yeah.
make it happen. Like they're gonna settle it somehow, and
Yeah.
like you said, it's just too perfect. And when he showed up, well, it was during Civil War, right?
Yeah. It was
Took me back to my childhood kind of moment where,
yeah.
oh my God, there he is. And he's perfect. He's got the quips. He's a little bit younger, I mean, they did make Aunt May kind of hot, which is a little strange, but
Or if they're gonna make everyone younger. It was like with Tobey Maguire, that's like and Andrew Garfield, it's a 30-year-old playing a
Mhm.
teenager. So Aunt May is this old lady, but they're like, okay, well, if we're gonna get an actual 19-year-old to play Spider-Man, we need to get a younger Aunt May.
yeah, funny between her and Tony too. They got to make some jokes there, which is kind of
Yeah, it was nice.
Right.
And then the real life like dynamic between Robert Downey Jr. and the actress that played Aunt May, like apparently they had dated.
Oh.
Was it Marissa Tomei?
Yeah, yeah,
Is that her?
they had dated
huh.
in the 80s or 90s or something when they were both a little younger. So chemistry there.
Hot gossip.
Interesting.
Hot gossip, yeah.
Was this TMZ now?
Yeah, right. Could be. Could be. I'm giving out all the gossip on, beard growth and Avatar stuff, and I don't know, all sorts of stuff. But I was gonna ask, like, suit wise, because the Spider-Man suit is always so iconic, and the different ones we've seen, whether it is the Insomniac game with kind of like the bigger spider, or the Tom Holland smaller spider. Do you have like a favorite suit?
I will say I didn't like dislike Insomniac's suit, but I did swap it out constantly. Like, I mean, you have so many cool suits in that game for one thing.
Yeah,
I always tend to gravitate towards more of like like symbiote or like the black suits, like the more kind of, but that's just personal preference. As far as the movies, I do like Tom Holland's suit, but I don't know, Garfield's looked pretty good. I like the kind of more classic. I think that having Tom Holland, having that Spider-Man have all of Iron Man's tech is really cool,
yeah.
but I don't necessarily love how the suits look.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
But I don't dislike them either.
Yeah.
They're just not necessarily, like, my favorite. I can't really think of, like, a bad Spider-Man suit, even, like, the, like, old '90s cartoon and stuff, I always thought it looked fine, but
Mhm.
when I can choose and when I can unlock my own suits and stuff like that, I'm always gravitating towards, like, stealth or maybe something with, like, a little bit of silver or white or, like, something a little bit.
Anti-venom.
Yeah, something like that, or the symbiote has always been probably one of my favorite things about Spider-Man's universe and the dynamic between how the suit affects him, but also his friendship with Eddie Brock and all that. And so just tying all that in with, a badass like emo suit,
Yeah.
that was always my favorite.
I didn't know if you had feelings towards the Iron Spider because it's so iconic, whether the Civil War comic one or the movie one.
Yeah, no, like I said, I like it. I don't know where it falls in like the rankings of all my favorites, but it's not up there at number one. But I don't dislike it. I think it's cool. The legs are super crazy.
Yeah.
That's true.
That was a cool ability in the game too, to get those legs and just start whooping up on people with them. So I think it's cool and I like it, but can't beat that all black.
Yeah, not to look for you.
So we got one locked in with Andrew and Spider-Man. We'll shift things over to Dylan here.
Sure.
Give us one of your favorite characters from the world of geekery.
So gonna go back to my childhood for this one, and still, today too. But Aragorn from the Lord of the Rings series, Lord of the Rings
Nice.
trilogy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
These movies originally came out in like 1998, 99, something like that.
Yeah, somewhere right in there, right?
So I
Yeah.
was like 8 or 9 or so when they came out. As a kid, you're always like, "Oh, I like Aragorn's like so cool, so he's my favorite." Like you were probably a big fan of either Aragorn or Legolas in those movies because like they were the coolest. That's not to say everybody was, but those were the ones I feel like most little or younger people gravitated towards.
They had the best action scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now, having rewatched the movies, still to like I watched them kind of on repeat as a kid, and we would all like go out and, fight each other with like fake swords and stuff in the backyard. But even, rewatching these in like high school or college or even today, like Aragorn as a character, I think just really stands up as like a very good, well developed character, almost caught kind of between two worlds, the world of men and the world of elves. He wasn't an elf, but he was like I forget the name of the race that he was, but they lived longer than normal people, and
The Dunedain?
yeah, and so he was raised by the elves, and was heir to the throne, but he didn't want the throne. He kind of just wanted to be, he was doing the whole Jon Snow thing before Jon Snow did it.
He's a man of honor.
Exactly. And just the way that he interacts with all the characters, like he meets all of the typical masculine like things, but then he's also, and that's just something I love about Lord of the Rings in general, is like, it's a movie about a bunch of dudes and they're not afraid to show them like hugging each other and like being real people.
Yeah.
There's not that toxic masculinity stuff in there. They're like Aragorn's in love with Arwen and her dad's like, nah. And he then proceeds to wait for like 40 years.
Yeah.
And just kind of the things that he does throughout the series, like he kind of steps in and selflessly pledges his life to, go help Frodo get the ring to Mordor, which for all they knew was a suicide mission. And
Right.
even, disagreements that they had with other characters, even like when Boromir died, he was very broken up about it. He was very respectful, just throughout the entire series. He was just a stand-up guy in general.
He showed you can be a badass and have a heart.
Exactly. And I thought Viggo Mortensen did a fantastic job of bringing that character
For
to
sure.
life.
Yeah.
Like it's been a long time since I've read the books, because at this point I would much rather just watch a 3-hour movie than read the book.
Yeah, it's a bigger commitment than the movies.
Like I've read all of the books, but I did that back in like high school. I just like his kind of whole story arc of, going from this mysterious Strider, and then the more and more you get to know him, the more interesting of a character that makes him. And you get to kind of see his journey from like this outcast caught between worlds to like when he finally accepts his fate as King of Gondor in the Halls of the Dead, Tombs of the Dead. I don't know.
Ooh.
Testing my Lord of the Rings knowledge. It's been a while.
Oh, yeah. It's
I think it's Halls.
also, yeah.
It sounds more.
Yeah. I've been playing so much Dark Souls that I'm like, am I remembering it correctly, or is this a Dark Souls level?
I thought that was a cool character, though. I was excited when I saw it on the document just because it had, for me too, it's been forever since I read the books, since I've seen the movies.
Mm-hmm.
They came out now, God, like 20 years ago. It's insane to think about that,
That's crazy.
Right?
And they are, 3 to 4 hours. So it's like a whole day's worth of movie watching just to get through one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But he is such a great character. And Tolkien was so good at character development. And it seems like one of the themes as we've talked through this, whether it's been Airbender, Spider-Man, Aragorn, is that the gravitation feels like it's definitely around those complex characters
Yes,
that show development, that show both sides, have a human appeal.
exactly.
So I think it's kind of interesting.
Everything you guys have said so far is exactly how I feel about it. Like he wasn't necessarily my favorite character, but
Mhm.
he was never a character I disliked
Right.
at all. Like I'm always engaged in all of his stories. I actually really enjoy the part he played in Two Towers.
Yeah.
In kind of restoring Rohan.
Yeah.
Helm's Deep.
Helm's Deep, and but lifting everyone back up in belief in what they can do, and that is always the part that sticks out to me. That, and then in Return of the King, when it's kind of the last line, he says like you kneel to no man,
Yeah.
to the hobbits. That makes me tear up like every time I see it.
Exactly.
But he's shown me I can cry, and it's okay.
Exactly. Because he really just kind of demonstrates like this is what true leadership is. This is what like a cool badass character is.
Yeah.
And you can do that and still be like not John McClane or somebody like that.
Yeah.
Amazon's got some Lord of the Rings stuff going on right now, and
Yep.
there's a show coming, I think, right,
Yeah.
sometime in the near future. So do you know if Aragorn or any of those characters are going to play a role or be involved? I haven't paid too much attention to it.
So it's set, I want to say, in a time period where if they wanted Aragorn to be in it, I think he could be, from what I remember seeing.
Okay.
He'd just be young or what?
He would be much younger though.
Okay.
Like it would be when he was out there as like a ranger, way before he was involved with like the Fellowship of the Ring and stuff.
So they're going kind of prequel.
Yeah, I want to say it's definitely a prequel, and I've seen like 2 different timelines.
Gotcha. Okay.
One is like much closer to the events of the movies. One I think was back at the time of the intro sequence to the Fellowship of the Ring, like
Okay.
the battle on the slopes of Mount Doom sort of time period.
Ooh. Okay.
I can't remember which one I saw them, like most recently saw them supposedly going with, because I don't think they've started filming yet.
Yeah, it's still a little ways off.
Mm-hmm.
I know, like for me, I'm like, give me more Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Like, give me video games, give me,
Yeah.
all of them.
I was gonna say, did you play Shadow of Mordor and
Yes.
Shadow of War?
Yep.
Played Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War. Loved them both. It wasn't Aragorn, but it was someone trying their hardest to be Aragorn.
And that's the truth.
But yeah, those are fantastic games. We're getting a Gollum game.
I was gonna say, looking forward to Gollum.
I'm very skeptical of whether
Yeah.
or not that'll be any good.
There's a Gollum game coming out?
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is news to me.
2021.
Yeah.
They're bringing Gollum
It's going to go around like turning over stones.
into like some sort of action RPG.
Action RPG? Probably like pre Schmiegel kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think he's like a earlier Gollum. I think just based on the character, it'll probably lean into stealth quite a bit. Like I would imagine you're kind of probably sneaking around and trying not to get seen as much as possible. But yeah, I remember maybe IGN had an article or something up on it a little bit, and then we've had a couple like either concept art or maybe even some early screenshots that have come out. But it's nothing major has really come out on it yet, I don't think.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw that and I was just kind of like, yeah, I can't think of any other stealthy characters you could possibly play as in a game.
It's just the weirdest character to make like their own, like a standalone game for.
Yeah.
So, like, it could be interesting. It could. I'm with you, Chris. I'm like, those movies are almost 20 years old. The Hobbit movies were okay,
Right. Yeah.
but they weren't really what I wanted. So I'm just ready to get back into like, let's do a good Lord of the Rings, and the Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War. I thought those were really good entries, even though they're not canon.
Yeah. Well, it's tough too with some of those IPs because it's like Star Wars and even Game of Thrones and some of those where you just have such an amazing base foundation set with the world and how these characters can be in general, right? And the types of people that inhabit these worlds. And so it's like you can almost have an endless amount of TV shows and movies and games and things that come out of them.
Mhm.
And of course, there's been a lot of books and stuff over the years that have kind of spun off of the original Lord of the Rings. But
Yeah.
come on, Tolkien Estate, like let's get some more stuff going.
Yeah. Like,
Probably the budget's probably the hardest part, is because all of them are really big productions, so they're a huge commitment.
yeah.
There's such a fan base
Yeah.
Mhm.
for Lord of the Rings content that I can't imagine it wouldn't be successful if it's done well.
Yeah, if it's done well, that's the thing. That fan base is also pretty particular. Like there's a lot of that fan base that hated those Shadow of Mordor games.
That is true.
They thought they were like bastardizations of the original material. And like I'm of the mind that no, this is just like, a separate timeline or something,
Right,
So just
yeah.
enjoy it. It's fun to be in that world hacking up orcs.
Exactly.
There were some people that were not happy. So it's like it's got to be like you said. It's if it's done well, there's the fan base for it.
Yeah.
Well, so we've got one each here. Probably have time for one more each, and I think we're going to get into a little game. So we'll double back with Andrew, who is number 2 here on your list, or not number 2. What's just another one on your list?
Oh man.
Now you got to pick, because I know we had asked you guys to pick 3, and then now I'm asking you to make a decision on which of the 2 you got left you're going to talk about.
I don't know. You guys want to hear more Airbender talk, or you want to hear more Witcher talk?
Like I feel like we pretty much nailed. We got Zuko. Like Zuko has an amazing story arc.
That's what I was thinking. So
Like Iroh is the king of all quotes.
Yeah.
Let's go Witcher.
So, Witcher 3, it's a little game I mention almost every time I talk.
Get this man a sponsorship deal.
Right?
I know, CD Projekt Red. No, but specifically Geralt as a character, I guess, honing in on that a little bit more specifically as opposed to just praising the game for its side quests. Geralt is, for one thing, just kind of on a surface level, he's like my spirit animal. Like
The White Wolf.
he doesn't, well, yeah, he just doesn't want to be there, He's like, I'm here, my wife made me come, so I'm here. And I guess, but deep down, he's going to do the right thing. He's got that good heart, even if he kind of complains about it and he's just kind of grumpy the whole time.
He's gonna put on the Popeye outfit and say,
Mhm.
"Okay, give me the spinach."
On that level, I can relate to him. Obviously, when you play The Witcher 3, you have some control over how your Geralt interacts with the world. You can decide to have more of a heart and maybe like help people out, not take their money. If you just killed this beast for them and you realize that they're going hungry, you can either say, give me your money anyways, or, okay, I'll be charitable. So you have a little bit of control over that in the games, but just as a character and in the show, they kind of showed this too. Like, even if he complains about it and even if he, creates the meme where he just says, fuck, he's going to do the right thing and he's going to step up. And something really cool about Geralt in the game in The Witcher 3, which those games take place after the show because the shows follow the books, but he's got such a good relationship to Ciri,
Mhm.
who's not his daughter by blood, but is for all intents and purposes like his daughter. The relationship between the two of them, especially if you make, the better choices towards the end of the game, is just really cool to watch. And he's kind of like a role model dad to some extent there. He's looking out for I mean, the whole game is about finding her to try and help her, protect her. But then when he does find her and she has these conflicts inside her, and she knows that she has to go do this thing that could potentially kill her or whatever. Like, he doesn't suffocate her or tell her that, she shouldn't. He's supportive. He lets her stand on her own 2 feet. There's certain situations where like all the mages from the Sorcerer's Lodge are going to basically like interrogate her and not like a literal interrogation, but like all lock her in a room together and they're going to try to talk her out of this thing. And Geralt is like one of the only people that backs her up. And so there's just kind of that cool dynamic. You see these posts, especially when we were recording this, Father's Day was recently, so it's like you see these shout out to the gamer dads posts, and you see like Kratos and Joel's not a good dad, but
Was that a dig at my Facebook page for GeeK KetchUp? Because I put up a Joel Happy
did you?
Father's
Well,
Day.
I mean, it's all in how you look at it. I mean, technically, yeah, his love for Ellie is good, but
yeah,
Yeah.
I like whenever you see Geralt on those posts, because even like I said, he can't have kids biologically, but that relationship with him and Ciri is something that's pretty special. And if you dig into it and study that relationship, it kind of shows that softer side to Geralt. And then outside of the softer side, because you don't want to just leave it at that. I mean, in the games he's got 2 swords. In the show he's got 1, and he knows how to use them. The dude's a badass. You can fulfill that action fantasy through him, and his job is literally, he's like a garbage man, but it's super dangerous. He's just out there killing all these monsters that are bothering and terrorizing people, and everybody hates him for it.
yeah.
And so it would be really easy to let that get to you and to just, really become a terrible person. But he's got this kind of hard exterior, but deep down, you can see that his heart is right. It's always in the right place. And so that's something that I relate to and something that I appreciate about, Geralt as a character.
Well, that's what's interesting about him is that, and that's what makes him unique in the Witcher world, right? Is that essentially in that world, the Witchers are created and they're devoid of feelings. They essentially are just kind of like killing machines, most of them. But for whatever reason, Geralt has his heart still, and it takes a long time to continuously peel it back. But, he makes different decisions than a lot of other Witchers, and he aligns himself and shows more loyalty to people than a lot of other Witchers. It's almost just like this constant unlocking of his humanity, even though he was pretty much stripped of it when he was a child.
Yeah, because the process that the Witchers go through when they're children, first of all, they're usually given up by their parents because a Witcher did a job for them and they couldn't pay for it. So they do the law of surprise kind of thing. And so, first of all, your parents gave you up. Then the Witchers take you back to their castle and they do this process called the trial of the grasses on you, which is where they just dump all this stuff into your body and into your bloodstream.
Chemicals or whatever.
Yeah. And like 1 out of every 10 children that went through that survived. And the ones that survived and went through all that pain become Witchers. And then you go through rigorous training and studies to be able to do your job. And so to go through all that and then still maintain, like you said, your humanity is impressive in and of itself if you really think about it.
Right.
There are other Witchers in the game. Some are just killing machines. There's one who's just kind of a sarcastic ass who doesn't care about anybody else but himself. And then there's another one, his name's Eskel, and he genuinely seems like he could be another cool character to follow, if the CD Projekt wanted to do like a side game or something. But yeah, overall, like you said, a lot of them just, they kind of become their job and that's it. And a lot of it, like what people say about they have no heart and they have no emotion. A lot of that is like the myth that everyone around them, they say it enough, and so the Witchers start to believe it. But Geralt is continuously pulled into these situations that make him have to use his heart.
That's true.
Even if he doesn't want to.
Yeah, because I haven't finished reading the books, but like from listening to people who have and from what I've read so far, there's not a ton of like witching that happens in the books. It is a lot of, like Andrew was saying, kind of those situations where it's more like intrigue and having to use his like heart and brain over actually fighting a monster.
Well, because he's capable of taking down anything. Like, he's the best Witcher that's out there. And so his brawn, he's got all that in the bag. It's everything else that he's learning, experiencing, making different decisions than maybe he had for the number of years beforehand. And so he's definitely up there. I've always appreciated him as a character for some of the same reasons. I was curious, it's been a long time since we've gotten a Witcher video game, if you don't include the Gwent games that have come out recently,
Right.
which are awesome. But there's one on Switch. I can't think of the name at the moment.
Thronebreaker.
Thronebreaker, yes, that's
Yeah.
a fantastic Gwent game.
Like a RPG where instead of fighting with like troops, you're fighting with Gwent.
Exactly. Yeah, I got into that for a little bit. I mean, we've also got the TV show,
Mhm.
which was a big step. But I was curious, since you're such a big Witcher guy, what do you hope kind of comes next for the character, whether it's TV, games, whatever? Like, what do you hope that we're going to get out of Geralt moving forward?
My hopes is that we get like a Witcher 4, but I know that especially if you play through all of Blood and Wine, there's like it ends in a very like thank you for coming on this journey with us. You know, this is it. This is the final. Like there's that nod. And I think CD Projekt Red has already said that Geralt's story is over. They made like if they do games in that universe, it may explore other things.
Okay.
So for me, it's probably the show because I was really cautiously optimistic the whole time that stuff was coming out about it. And I was nervous about who they cast. And I was really hoping it'd be good, but was also prepared to be disappointed. But I thought they knocked it out of the park. The show itself was great, but then I thought Henry Cavill as Geralt,
Oh, yeah.
he's not the Geralt from the game. He has like his own spin on it, but he nails the character so well.
Agreed.
He's a huge fan of the character and he's played all the games and read all the books. So like it was a passion project for him and that really shows through.
Mhm.
Yep.
And then everything else, like him as the character was great, but then Yennefer was fantastic. Like the action scenes, like that sword fight
Mhm.
against him, and I can't remember that girl's name, but I think it was at the end of the first episode.
I was going to say early in the show.
Yeah, that was insane. Like the choreography, and like once I saw that, I was hooked. Like
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
I watched that whole show over a couple days, and so I'm looking forward to seeing how that show grows as they get more budget and you know they kind of get more comfortable in making it. They say they have plans to do like 7 seasons, like one for each book essentially. So I'm hoping that it keeps going and that it doesn't go Game of Thrones on us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, and I know Netflix threw a bunch of money behind the first season, but I'm hoping with how successful the first season was, they throw even more behind it.
Yeah, because everything in that first season was good, but there was some things that could have been better.
Mhm.
Some of the creatures and stuff looked a little odd at times, but I mean, overall, I thought it was
Mhm.
super solid. I was impressed.
Yeah.
I was happily impressed because I was kind of, like I said, cautiously optimistic going into it.
I think the door is open for a fantasy show to step into the void that Game of Thrones left behind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
Agreed.
people are jonesing for it. Well, we've gotten 2 from Andrew. We have a lot of, hard men with soft interiors so far here, Dylan. Like that's really been the theme. We got a lot of guys that are tough, brooding,
Yeah.
can fight the good fight, but also show their emotions. So bring us home
Yes.
with your next character here. Hopefully, it's a hard exterior with a tender inside.
Yeah, so two out of the 3 that are on this list are those for sure. So I'll just quickly shout out the 2 that I'm not going to talk about. Garrus Vakarian from the Mass Effect series. He's one of my favorite video game characters. And then I've been reading the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson. And the main character of that is Vin. It's kind of like if Harry Potter met Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Well, Kyle just got excited.
Yeah, I was like,
What was that again?
yeah, like let me write that down real quick. What?
So it's a really cool series of books, and Vin is the main character of that, and she's really cool. They can use metals to like do all these cool magical powers and stuff.
Interesting.
Nice.
I won't talk too much about those. So the main character that I'm going to pick is Drizzt Do'Urden from the Forgotten Realms series. But he's part of is anyone familiar with the Forgotten Realms series before I go further?
Nope, that was going to be my question.
Yeah, negative. No clue.
All right.
Just, whew.
So the first one, hold on though. So the first one was Mistborn.
Yes, Mistborn.
Mistborn. Okay. So but these are both book series.
Yes, both book series.
Okay.
The Forgotten Realms is one of the canonical Dungeons and Dragons settings
Ah.
for like Wizards of the Coast. The adventures and stuff that they publish themselves are all set within the Forgotten Realms. Back when that was kind of getting started, you had a bunch of authors go out and write books about characters within the world. And so one of the series was like Legend of Drizzt. Similar to Aragorn in Lord of the Rings, he's kind of like the Aragorn of the companions
Okay.
of the Hall, is what they're called. He's a dark elf ranger. And then there's Brunner, a dwarf, his adopted daughter, Catti Bree, and her husband, Wolfgar, and then their little halfling friend Regis. And so, but Drizzt is kind of, to me, the most interesting character within the Dungeons and Dragons universe, the Forgotten Realms universe. Dark elves are raised like they're born underground. They live in caves deep under the earth, and they're raised in a very harsh and like violent society that is basically you're rewarded for being cruel and cunning, and it's a very intriguing kind of political. There are all these houses and they can't have, like an outright war with you or they might lose favor. So they all engage in like these constant shadow wars trying to like take down the other houses and just kill everybody who is involved with them and slowly move up sort of that ladder.
Like the politics of it, essentially.
And so Drizzt was born into that society, but he never gelled with that society. He was constant, like the start of the series. Well, there's 3 books and then it goes back. But if you read them chronologically, the start of the series is all about how, he started out kind of being trained into this society. They would want him to kill somebody and he wouldn't do it, or, that kind of stuff. And it all kind of culminates when he's getting ready to like kind of become an adult in the society, and he, instead of killing and sort of solidifying himself into that society, he kind of runs away.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the second book is all about him kind of living under sort of the underground caves. And so he's kind of got this split personality where he'll become like what he calls the hunter, which is kind of a sort of instinctual version of himself that he's needed to become to survive essentially out there.
Like primitive?
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much. He lives out there for years. Then he encounters like some other people down there, and they kind of help him sort of, I want to say find his humanity, but it's not really humanity. It's like find himself again, find, that ability to be compassionate.
Live outside the constraints.
And he eventually moves, like, he realizes he can't live underground because basically when he left his family, he made them fall out of favor with the god that they worshipped. And so the god basically told them, like, you have to bring him back and sacrifice him, or you're never going to get your like favor back.
Whoa, that's intense.
So he realizes he needs to like leave, and so he eventually makes his way to the surface, and that's where he meets everybody else. He's constantly kind of discriminated against above ground because of his skin, and because of in this world everyone assumes that if you're a dark elf you're evil. So he has to kind of overcome that. He also has to overcome, in the beginning of the series, he is very, like, he holds himself to a very strict code of, not killing and all of that sort of thing. And so he kind of has to journey through, like, sometimes I'm going to be forced to do this and I can't hold everyone to the same standards that I hold myself to.
I got you.
So just kind of seeing his journey, like at this point, I think there's like 15 or 16 books in this series.
Wow.
I was about to ask if it was just like one set that follows this characters and then you have another one that follows other characters, but like all 15 follow him.
Yeah, all 15 follow him and like the companions that he's with.
Wow.
Just kind of throughout. And they're usually bundled in like trilogies. So like it'll be like here's a set trilogy and then here's another set trilogy.
Gotcha.
Are they longer? Because I'm thinking like the Gunslinger Stephen King books, they're short stories in the beginning.
They're longer than the Gunslinger, but I wouldn't say that they're super, super long. At least when I was reading them like all the time, they seem to move pretty fast to me. It's again one of those things like Aragorn where it's like, as a kid, I thought he was cool and badass because it's like, oh, here's this like edgy dark elf. He fights with 2 scimitars. He's got like a statue of a panther that can turn into, it's like a panther from another plane. And so he can summon it, and it like,
that's pretty badass.
Nice.
They fight together. So basically my World of Warcraft character was created as this. And even like all of my pets in World of Warcraft are named after characters in this series. So
that's awesome.
So it's just a really cool, as a kid, it's like, oh, it's so cool. But then, as you grow up, you start to you read it in a different lens, and you start realizing that there's a lot of like social commentary in there. There's a lot of, again, with Aragorn, it's like, yes, you can be this like super skilled badass fighter, but then you can also be compassionate and have all these other, have empathy and have all of these other, leadership qualities that make you not just a good soldier, but a good leader, good person.
Yeah.
And just kind of the struggles that he and the other companions would have are all very relatable, I think.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of either of those book
Mm-mm.
series, but definitely not this character. So that's super cool.
Yeah. Looking back, I still think that the Forgotten Realms series is really good. I don't know if they would hold up as like super great works of literature if you were to like not read them with all the nostalgia that I have for them. But the Mistborn series, definitely does hold up. Like that's a more recent series. I don't know if you guys have heard of the Wheel of Time series.
That kind of sounds familiar, but
Yeah, that
I'm
one.
not putting anything to it.
So the guy who finished the Wheel of Time series when its original author died is the one that wrote the Mistborn series.
Oh, okay.
So, but he does a lot of cool stuff.
I've had a huge void in my life from like I used to read all the time.
Yeah.
And then Game of Thrones came out and I learned what it was and I literally blitzed all the books in like a 6-month period of time.
Yeah.
And then I've just had this void. Like literally, it's been
Yeah.
years that I've had this void where I've only been able to read certain books here
Mhm.
and there. Like I've been way more on the comics lately.
Yeah.
Like I still have this craving to read, so I hear about like different series like this. I'm always putting them on the list, but I haven't pulled the trigger and bought one. I need to go and try some out.
Yeah. Well, you're still waiting on that next book.
Well, that was part of it for a while. I'm like, I'm just gonna wait for R. Martin. Now I'm here 10 years later. Like,
Right.
I'm gonna have to check out some of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've recently gotten back into the Forgotten Realms series because Humble Bundle recently had a sale that was like the first 10 books or something of the series, or maybe even more than that, on like e-reader or digital copies of them. So it's made it a lot easier to like pull those up and read those.
Nice. Yeah.
It's always nice.
I think we hit some solid characters all around here.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure.
You know, they all had some similarities to them with the tender heart, but strong exterior. You know, I made that joke going into that, but strong characters that resonate with people and in any way, shape, or form. Gotta love it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to the game.
Yes.
And so we've prepared when we did our little crossover stint here. Chris and I were on level playing field. We played a little game on that side, so we thought we'd do the same when Andrew and Dylan came to our side. I hosted over there, so we're gonna hand it over to Andrew. He's gonna host on our side. Andrew, tell us what we're playing.
All right. So this game, I call it Synonym Roll because I thought that was funny. I can't take full credit for coming up with it, but it is one of my favorites to play on like a podcast because it's entertaining to listen to hear. Basically, the basic concept is that you take a title of a game or a movie or something and you change each word to a synonym of that word. And then you guys have to guess what the original title was based on the jacked up title that I'm going to read to you. So usually like the titles that I read are entertaining in and of themselves. So as a listener, you're just kind of cracking up at this nonsense. But then as someone that's participating, you're actually really kind of racking your brain. So what I'll do, I mean, some of them will be easier than others. What I'll do if you're not getting it is I'll start throwing hints out at you and we'll play whoever guesses it first will get the point. And I have 3 categories. I have games, movies, and TV shows. We'll go through them in order. I'm not going to mix them up or anything. So
Sounds good.
Do we get a cinnamon roll if we win?
yeah, absolutely. But you have to go buy it.
Yeah, so that could be difficult given the distance here,
Just DoorDash it to me. Come on.
right?
Yeah, I'll just mail it to you.
I was gonna say I have a rules question.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to write these down and then read them?
Like write down what I say and then try to.
Yeah, I'm not obviously I won't cheat and use any synonym bit or on my own, but
Mhm.
read the words instead of just thinking.
Yeah.
Kyle wants the visual.
I think you probably could, but you just may lose some speed. So if someone doesn't need to write them down, they may
Oh, okay.
beat you to it. I don't know. I've never had anybody do that, but I don't see it as breaking any rules. So
I'd say if I don't need to, I won't, but
It's our house, Kyle. You make your own house rules to other people's games.
right,
oh right, yeah, house rules. I get to write stuff down. That's
I'll throw the first one at you, and you'll get kind of an idea of how challenging they may be.
All right, let's do it.
Are these you're mixing them up, whether they're coming from game, movie, TV show?
No, the first 5 are games,
Okay.
second 5 are movies, last ones are TV shows.
Okay.
Okay.
So number 1, Great Edible Child,
Super Meat Boy.
Super Meat Boy.
Whoa.
Ooh,
Nice. I like that.
Dylan gets a point.
well done, sir.
Edible child.
Yeah, I try to pick ones that'll be kind of funny too. So
That's great.
that's the basic idea. So next we have Blaze Symbol 3 Abodes.
Blaze symbol. Fire Emblem 3? Heroes? Or whatever that new one is?
Yeah.
Adventures?
Three houses.
Ooh.
3 houses.
I'll give it to you. You're right there.
You knew what it was.
Yeah.
3 abodes.
Yeah.
I want games named like this.
All right. Next one is Mob Aftermath.
Ooh.
The wheels are turning. All right. This is a very popular series of games. It had a controversial ending.
Mob Aftermath?
Mob Aftermath.
Mob Aftermath.
Oh, you're saying aftermath like one word? I'm thinking like mob after like math, like I'm gonna go do 2 plus 2.
Yeah.
But you're saying aftermath?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
The series is a like sci-fi RPG.
Mass
Effect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Damn it. Yeah, that's all Dylan.
Yeah.
I was like, my mind was in like Mafia or something.
Yeah, I was thinking mafia.
Yeah.
Mob threw you off, huh?
Yes.
A synonym for a mass.
That was getting me. I'm like, mob is a synonym for math, but okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you can get this one, Kyle. Fatal Struggle.
Is this Final Fight?
No, not Final Fight. It is a fighting game.
Oh, Mortal Kombat.
There you go.
Fatal. Yeah.
These are high IQ.
Yeah. I'm on the board, so I'm happy. I gotta be honest. Like after the first one, I'm like, I'm not gonna get any of them, and I'm just gonna go to bed sad.
The TV shows and movies, could be a little easier. Who knows? I do tend to do better hosting than I do playing this game myself. All right, last game. Time Ended.
Time ended.
Time Ended. This is a PlayStation exclusive, PlayStation 4 exclusive.
Time ended.
It had mixed reception when it came out.
Oh.
Death Stranding?
No.
I think I know what it is, but I can't remember the name of the game.
It came out last year. It's open world. Last hint's gonna give it away. It's gonna be a free.
The motorcycle one.
It's a zombie game.
Oh, Just Cause?
No.
No. Oh.
A zombie game.
Yeah.
Until Dawn?
Oh, it's that stupid guy on the. It's yeah.
You rode around on the motorcycle.
Yeah, you ride a motorcycle. I'm like the only person in this group that apparently played and liked it.
Yeah, not Dead Rising, not there's so many freaking zombie games. I'm blanking.
You did a review on it on our site, and I can't think of.
Yep, I think I'm gonna have to tell you. All right, it's Days Gone.
Days Gone.
Yeah, I definitely did not play that one.
I pictured the box art like so perfectly in the videos of him yeah, but I'm like, nope, I got nothing.
Tough.
All right, after the games category, we got Chris with 1, Dylan with 2, and Kyle with 1. Moving now into movies. Number 1, Gargantuan.
Big.
Nope,
That was a movie though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
not the one I was thinking of.
Godzilla?
Nope.
Gargantuan.
If you had a soft heart, like a lot of these characters, this might be a movie that you would have, watched and enjoyed, maybe with a wife or a girlfriend.
Mm.
Very well known.
Titanic?
Titanic.
Titanic. Ooh, nice.
That's a throwback.
Well done. Yeah.
Straight 1998 shit right there.
Oh yeah.
Young Leo.
I was thinking more current.
Yeah, that was my next hint, was Leonardo DiCaprio. All right, number 2, Doll Adventure.
Toy Story.
Toy Story.
Ooh.
Yep.
Nice.
Pile up to 2, The Sinister Champion.
The Dark Knight?
The Dark Knight.
Nice.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Dylan won the last game too, so you come on, guys.
I know.
Yeah. It's reigning champ.
This one's a little longer. Governor of the Band, The Rebound of the Monarch.
Governor of the band. The reigning monarch.
The Rebound.
Or the rebound of the monarch.
The Reign of the King, something.
Uh,
Yeah, Lord of the Rings, Reign of the Return of the King.
there you go.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Nice.
Governor of the Band. I was like, wait.
Sorry, I read Monarch and I was like, is there a movie about butterflies? Like, what?
The butterfly effect
Yeah.
Yeah,
fits our Aragorn talk earlier.
Yeah.
it's topical. All right, it's the last one in the movies. Hero Conflict, A Original Wish. Hero Conflict, A Original Wish.
Star Wars: A New Hope.
Star Wars: A New Hope.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dylan has had a little more practice at this game than you guys.
Yeah, we have played it a few times.
Crushing it, though.
We have played it before. I tried to pick ones that I didn't think we'd ever done before, though.
Yeah, so far you've done good.
No, this is good. Yeah, I've never played any game like this, so it's good.
Yeah.
It makes you think in a different way.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
All right. TV shows. The Hiking Departed.
The Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm.
Walking Dead, yep.
Nice.
So wait, where were we at score-wise going into the last category here?
For that one, it was Chris with 2, Dylan with 5, Kyle with 2. But now you have 3, Chris. So
All right.
you could still catch up. There's 4 more to go. Technically, you could both catch up.
I have to go on a tear.
Streaky.
All right. So number 2 in TV. Detaching Awful.
Nope. Nope. Detaching. Yeah, my brain just shot somewhere. Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad.
There you go.
There it is. New strategy is to send you guys off in a tangent.
I was gonna say you had me like my brain went left as soon as you said Arrested
I
Development.
was like, I don't ask me why my brain went Arrested Development. None of that made sense. But I was like, yep, I'm Arrested Development.
Jason Bateman.
Yeah.
Start shouting The Office. All right. Next one. Hydra Orb.
Waterworld? No, that's not a TV show.
Hydra Orb.
Hydra, like
Snake Eyes.
HYDRA?
Yeah, Hydra.
Okay.
And this one's throwing it back a little bit like Titanic did, Chris.
But it's a TV show.
Hydra Orb.
Although there are versions of this show still on today. I don't know. I think that might have hurt more than it helped. It's an animated show.
What are they, like Bubble Guppies? I don't know. But only people with kids would get that.
It's an anime show.
Oh, that's definitely out of my realm then.
Yeah, but you know this one.
Hydra Orb. Dragon Ball?
Dragon Ball.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Dragon Ball.
I did not even put that. I was thinking ball, but I was like Spaceballs, Dodgeball, like all this other stuff that was not lining up.
All better than Bubble Guppies.
Right, yeah, I watched a lot of Bubble Guppies this morning. So, all right. So I think there's 2 more, which means Dylan has first place, but you 2 are tied for second. So,
Ooh,
There it is.
fighting for first place of the losers.
If you ain't first, you're last.
yep. This is one word, but it's patrolman.
Cops.
Nope.
Ah,
Trollman.
Watchmen.
Watchman.
Watchman.
Mm.
Ooh, nice.
I love that show, by the way. That was such a good show. I don't know if y'all watched the series. It was so good.
I haven't watched it yet, but it's on my radar. I've heard like only
Yeah.
things about it, but
Mm-hmm.
They're only gonna do the one season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right. So I got one more, and it's probably going to be a race to see who says it first. It's consistently radiant in Philadelphia.
It's always sunny
That's
in Philadelphia.
a...
It's consistently radiant
It's consistent.
in Pittsburgh.
Thought about doing a different state because there's no like synonym for Philadelphia, but I already had looked it up and typed it out and was like, that's still funny, and it could be like a gimme at the end.
Mm.
Yeah.
That puts the score in the end with Kyle with 3, Chris with 5, and Dylan with 6, our reigning champion for both halves of the crossover.
That's true.
Well, yeah. Just can't be beat.
I got a little redemption.
Yeah, you did.
I struggled on the last one. The Kahoot got me.
Yeah. I'm saying I deserved after making the last quiz like way too hard.
No, that was good.
Although we did talk about it after the fact. I was like, well, I'm dealing with 3 people that like Souls games. So let's torture them.
Exactly.
Right, we enjoy it. We like that punishment.
Yeah, no, that's a good game. We're gonna steal that at some point, I'm sure, in the future for guests that come on.
It's a simple concept, and so it's not hard to like put together, but it's almost always entertaining because you get a chuckle out of at least 1 or 2 of how
Yeah.
silly they are. But it also like it's not a dumb game. Like it makes you think. So it's funny and intelligent. So there you go.
Yeah, for sure.
And you can even do like a spin-off of this where you like run it through Google Translate 5 or 6 times and translate it back.
Yeah, it's another version where you like translate it a bunch and then read what comes out.
That's interesting.
That's pretty good.
Good stuff. Well, definitely glad you all were able to join us here. Definitely some good discussion. You want to give us another shout out on where everyone can find Level Playing Field Gaming?
Check us out, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, all the Apple's like subsidiary ones that are like Castbox and all those smaller ones. We're on all that. The TuneIn, Alexa, all that. We're on YouTube. And if you've enjoyed these crossovers, if you enjoy what GeeK KetchUp does, we do that with a couple more people, but a little bit more focused in on video games. I like to think it's a pretty nice blend of like kind of lighthearted silliness, but also, we do have some kind of thoughtful, deep discussions every now and then.
For sure.
A healthy blend. And
yeah, if you've got room in your life for another podcast, we'd love to be it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's always more room for more podcasts.
Always.
And did you have a website? I don't know if you mentioned that earlier, but do you all have a website?
We do have a website. It's lpfgaming.com. We don't update content on there as often as we should, but we do have some stuff on there. We plan on putting more stuff up there. Like YouTube has taken up a lot of our time recently, like kind of learning how that works and learning how to do video. But yeah, we do have a website. You can reach out to us on any of our socials. We're pretty active on there. If you want to just chat with us or whatever, hit us up. We also have an email address, lpfgamespodcast@gmail.com that we'll check if you send us anything. If you have like topic suggestions, things that we could talk about, or questions, we do have a segment sometimes where we answer, like listener feedback kind of questions or things that we saw on social media that we thought were interesting. So definitely ways for you to engage with us if you would be so inclined. We'd love to hear from anybody out there that does check us out and happens to jive with us and stick around.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Timeline is off, but you guys dropped your 50 more questions today. I'd say that I had some pretty good chuckles listening to you guys there.
Yes.
Oh yeah, those are always fun to do. We have probably one too many drinks and then answer. We did one a while back. It did really well as far as listeners, and so I thought, why not do a sequel?
There you go.
The sequel was fun too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Drunk video game history.
Drunk video game opinions.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, anything else as we wrap up here?
Anything you want to say, Dylan? You good?
That's I think we covered it all as far as I can remember.
Yeah, my I guess closing thought is thanks for having us on your show. We enjoyed having you on ours. I think this was really fun. I really liked doing the whole back-to-back thing and kind of bouncing the ball in each other's court. That was a cool concept, and I think it make for some good episodes. And I'm going to be looking for opportunities to have one or both of you back on our show in the future. So
I got the vibe. You will hear from us again, and and our listeners will hear from you again. Like, absolutely.
Exactly. Epic crossovers.
Yes.
Well, everybody out there, definitely check out Andrew and Dylan and the rest of the crew at Level Playing Field Gaming. They are a ton of fun, and we will catch you on the flip side. Thank you for listening to GeeK KetchUp. If you enjoyed today's chapter, please remember to subscribe to GeeK KetchUp on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Check out GeeK KetchUp on Facebook and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at GeeK KetchUp Pod for updates on new episodes every 2 weeks. You can find links to all these accounts in the show notes below or at our website, www.geekketchuppodcast.com. Stay saucy, you nerds.